Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished Mr. Commissioner, distinguished ambassadors, dear students, faculty, dear ADA friends. Welcome to our Global Perspective series, which are sponsored by Azercell company. Today we are very honored to have a distinguished guest, EU Commissioner for Enlargement and Neighbourhood Policy, Mr. Štefan Füle. He will be making remarks and present his speech about EU-Azerbaijan relations, and we will have a chance for question and answer session after that. Let me just take a few minutes to introduce our distinguished speaker. As you know, Mr. Commissioner is a career diplomat. He started at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Czechoslovak Federative Republic as a desk officer, and then he advanced through his career to a number of distinguished positions, being in different diplomatic posts. Most recently, before being appointed as EU Commissioner for Enlargement and Neighbourhood Policy, he was also Minister for European Affairs of Czech Republic in 2009, and prior to that, in 2001-2002, he was First Deputy Minister of Defense of Czech Republic. In between these two key governmental positions, he was permanent representative of Czech Republic to North Atlantic Treaty Organization for 4 years, and before that, for 3 years, he was ambassador of Czech Republic to United Kingdom and Northern Ireland. Before that, he was ambassador of Czech Republic to Lithuania. So in foreign ministry, he has held a number of senior positions, including Director of Security Policy Department and Director of United Nations Department. Mr. Commissioner, it's a great honor for us to host you at Diplomatic Academy, and I would say that perhaps this is the most appropriate venue for your speech, because in partnership with European Union office in Baku, we have recently launched EU studies in Azerbaijan, and we are partnering with a number of European universities to accomplish this project. And I should also tell you that we are hosting here a number of other events, and since you are an alumni of Moscow State Institute of International Affairs in MGIMO, I should also tell you that just a few weeks ago we have hosted here first International Forum of Alumni of MGIMO, and we presented Director of MGIMO with doctorate degree. And you're also alumni of Charles University, Mr. Commissioner, and we have just about 2 weeks ago signed up a partnership agreement with Charles University as well. So without further ado, I will pass the floor to Mr. Commissioner, and we will open, after his speech, we'll open it up for questions and answers. Thank you very much. The floor is yours, Mr. Commissioner.
Good afternoon to everybody. I think the main point of that CV, which I ask the moderator to keep as short as possible, is you could do it too. Because I started in the institute like yours. And at that time, being an active participant in this UN models, I thought to myself, oh my God, ambassador. Can you imagine, once to be an ambassador? Not only that, extraordinary and even plenipotentiary. And it happened. And the same, I wish, happens too. Executive Vice Rector, Vice Ministers, Excellencies, dear friends, I appreciate very much the chance to address you today in the Diplomatic Academy, which is a highly appropriate venue indeed for me to share my thoughts and reflections. To those young people who are students now in this prestigious academy, and I had the honor to be actually welcomed in front of the building by a Czech student. Kde jste teďka? Já nevidím vás. I would wish success not only in serving your country around the world, but also in bringing new information and new perspectives back home. The second task is just as important and just as challenging. I come to Azerbaijan as much to hear your messages as I come to pass my own. In any successful partnership, we need to be sensitive to what our partners have to offer, as well as sharing what we have to share. And I do believe that the European Union has a lot to share. The euro remains one of the world's centers of gravity, a market of 500 million consumers, and an important trade partner for many countries in the world. And there is room for even our strongest trade relationships to develop further. So it is no surprise that the European Union is engaging with the United States and also Japan in talks on new trade agreements. At the same time, we have to remain realistic. It is no secret that Europe's economy is facing some tough challenges. The impact of the global sovereign debt crisis has hit parts of Europe hard, and this has weakened public confidence in institutions, not least in the European Union itself. But while the European Union did not cause the crisis, it is actually the key to recovering from it. Restoring stability and reforming economies are top priorities for the European Union leaders. Let me add a couple of words on the broader context of our bilateral relationship. As you know, European Union and Azerbaijan relations are developed through the Eastern Partnership. That is to say, the Eastern dimension of the European Neighbourhood policy. This policy framework is of great value both to the European Union and also its partners, because it will bring our relationship to a new and higher level. If we are serious in implementing our commitments, and we should be, our political and trade relations will become much stronger through the regulatory convergence of our partners with the European Union and the effective sharing of values and, of course, implementing them. What is more, the Eastern Partnership will also strengthen the links between the people of Azerbaijan and the people of Europe. Ultimately, our partners, Azerbaijan and other Eastern partners, will be able to join forces with the European Union politically and economically. And jointly, the European Union and its partners will be able much better to face the challenges of globalization in a world where geographical distance matters less and less. And I would say where the size matters again. Now let me also use this opportunity to dispel a myth. The Eastern Partnership, some say, is using a one-size-fits-all approach, leading to uniform relationship in which the specificity and the very nature of each of the partners gets lost. However, exactly the opposite is true. While we do use a common tool box, in which, for example, mobility of people plays a crucial role, together with our partners, we are keen to find tailor-made solutions. Differentiation is key. And Azerbaijan, in this respect, is no exception. Dear friends, within the Eastern Partnership, as well as bilaterally, the European Union has high ambitions for broadening and deepening its relations with Azerbaijan. Clearly, we consider Azerbaijan an interesting and reliable partner. What does Azerbaijan offer? We believe your location, your resources, and above all, your people. And here I stress, in all their diversity, make you a natural partner for the European Union. A partner in regional and international security, in energy, in anti-terrorism, in enterprise development and investment, in culture, and in education. There is a tremendous potential, and this is why I have come to reconfirm the European Union's commitment to deepen relations with Azerbaijan. I'm here to help build relations on the basis of mutual respect and common interest, but also on the basis of our common values and principles. But today I want to stress another dimension of our relationship as well. The European Union has a clear goal of forging deeper relations with all Azerbaijanis from across the political spectrum, from civil society and among the population. In other words, an inclusive partnership. The most beneficial aspect of opening up and developing our partnership in an inclusive fashion is that new actors will come to the table. That means new, trusting and productive relationship can be established, not just between government officials, but also between real experts in many areas. My visit to Baku is especially focused on how to make these various partnerships work to the benefit of both parties. So I'm glad that I had the opportunity for a substantial and constructive discussion with President Aliyev on a range of bilateral and regional issues. And clearly, both of us want to bring the European Union-Azerbaijan relationship to an even higher level. I recognize that there are other models of development and integration on offer in the European Union's eastern neighborhood. The model the European Union proposes is certainly not the perfect, but I believe we do operate on the basis what you see is what you get, in terms of setting clear goals in the different areas of cooperation, what is expected from Azerbaijan, and what the European Union should be offering in return. I believe this makes the progress of our relations and of key reforms easier to visualize and easier to monitor, and the result is an important boost for accountability. Dear friends, reforms in Azerbaijan will allow the European Union to deliver some very specific benefits in terms of mobility of persons, education, environment, public health and consumer protection, economic development and trade. We are all looking forward to the Vilnius summit later this year, and of course I want to see a good range of deliverables, but above all, I want to see quality and depth in terms of our achievements. Since we are in the company of many education professionals and students, I would like to say a specific word about education, which in one of the areas which can deliver specific opportunities and benefits, which is one of those areas. Naturally, I want to encourage Azerbaijanis to take full advantage of the opportunities to take part in student and youth exchanges and in academic cooperation. I'm glad that the European Union has reinforced and increased support to higher education cooperation. At the end of last year, we had a Tempus information event in Baku, and I would encourage all those with an interest to attend these events to see what is on offer. Youth cooperation is another area I want to highlight today, because this is a really important foundation for mutual understanding. I'm proud that since the so-called Youth in Action program, which was set up, nearly 1,500 young Azerbaijanis have taken part. We must keep up this momentum. These are some of the positive and practical benefits of our cooperation, but what about core values? Earlier, I mentioned human rights and fundamental freedoms as core values of the European Union. But they are more than that. In our conception, these values are also guarantees of a sustainable and durable development built upon public support, public trust, and accountability. These overarching principles, together with the rule of law in place, create a framework for personal freedom and political pluralism. This is why we attach great attention to open space for dialogue and exchange of ideas being more, not less, free before elections. It is in this context that we wish to see Azerbaijan's president's elections later this year to be conducted in conformity with the international commitments the country has voluntarily taken towards the Council of Europe, OSCE, and also the European Union. If this is the case, these elections will provide, as they should do, for a very useful platform for open exchange of views on your country's future. Let me look at the domestic situation also from a different angle. Here in the Southern Caucasus, I cannot neglect the need for a peaceful regional cooperation and integration if the potential of this vibrant region is to be fulfilled. Whatever position one holds on the conflicts in the Eastern Partnership region, one cannot deny their continuing effect in restricting growth and opportunity. This is sadly an objective fact. It is one reason why the European Union has no choice but to do all it can to promote an environment conducive to progress in conflict settlements and to encourage and support peace-building activities. Dear friends, I hope it is clear to you now that I am here to further our mutual understanding on how best to upgrade our relations in the framework of the Eastern Partnership. Let me be perfectly frank. I have certainly also used my visit to raise some of our concerns. And of course, I'm not afraid to listen to concerns about the European Union's performance as well. Recently, we published our progress reports on partner countries in the European neighbourhood. In Azerbaijan, we found some significant areas of progress, but we also said very openly that Azerbaijan needs to continue its efforts in order to meet its commitments on democracy, including electoral process, the protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms, and the independence of the judicial system. Some of these reforms areas are very broad, and so it is right that we should focus our dialogue on a limited number of them where we believe concrete change is possible. And we should also offer something in return. So for all these challenging reforms, we will also be discussing possible European Union support in terms of modernization, good governance, expertise, and practical assistance. Clearly, our cooperation in the Eastern Partnership entails also European Union commitments. You can rightly expect us to deliver on these if reforms in Azerbaijan go ahead. To conclude, the relationship between the European Union and Azerbaijan from the European Union perspective has enormous potential. I believe we can build a solid foundation for prosperity and development without eroding those special characteristics, traditions, and features that make this country and its people unique. And I'm looking forward to your questions and comments. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner, for your interesting remarks. And the topic of EU-Azerbaijan relationship is so important for us, so interesting for us that I'm expecting some questions, good questions. Let me just say, Mr. Commissioner, that today we have quite a broad, diverse audience here. starting from Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Ambassador Mamad Kuliyev, and going to diplomatic corps and rectors of universities, political scientists, but we also have a number of students from several universities, not just diplomatic academy. We have opened up this event for a number of universities, and today we have students from Tourism Institute, Baku State University, Odlar Yurdu University, Azerbaijan University of Languages. So I hope that they will also have a chance to ask questions and raise the issues of mutual interest. So please raise your hand if you have a question, introduce yourself, and please be as brief as possible because we have shortage of time. So let's start from there.
Hussein Panahov from NATO International School of Azerbaijan. First of all, Mr. Commissioner, I'd like to thank you for visiting our country and for your insightful speech. My question would be regarding Georgia. Recently, I was talking to my Georgian colleagues, and they mentioned that the near future will be decisive for Georgia. Since President Putin got re-elected, he's been quite aggressive, and they were talking about economic invasion of Georgia by Russians. And my question's about Georgia because the fate of Georgia actually matters for Azerbaijan's interests as well. Could you talk about what should Georgians expect from the Vilnius summit? Could they get any tangible support from Russia as they're expecting? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's take another couple of questions. Maybe from, there were some hands over here I saw. Or you can actually make some comments as well if somebody has comment or question. Okay, we have one question over there. Can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Farzin Farzad. I'm a master's student here, first year master's student here at ADA. My question is involving Turkey, and I can kind of like relay that into possible expansion into Azerbaijan. But Turkey recently announced that they're going to develop a relationship with the SCO. So I wanted to see if that both positively or negatively affects their bid for EU accession or just more cooperation with the EU itself. So, and then if there's a negative relationship burgeoning there, does that have any effect on possible integration with Azerbaijan itself? So the Turkey issue.
Okay, thank you very much. And maybe I'll take one more question if there are any. Okay, please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I'm not a student of ADA. Said Babai from Ministry of Economic Development. Actually, there was a question about Georgia and Turkey, and I will ask another question which combines all of them. Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey together initiated a very important project, railway project, Baku-Tbilisi cars. I would like to hear the view of EU. What is the approach of EU to this project, and what kind of support you can grant to this project? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Babayev. So maybe one last question from the first batch. Please raise your hand. Introduce yourself.
Zaur Akbar and Youth Club from Youth Club Public Union. I am very happy to see you, Mr. Štefan Füle, in my country. I would like to give you answer and a question about recent arrest in my country. I think you follow and have regular info about recent process in my country. How do you think and what's your opinion about recent arrests, especially 7 young activists and plus 2 public figures, Ilgar Mammadov and Tevfik Yaguplu? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I'll let Mr. Commissioner to take this first batch of questions.
Okay, let me first talk about neighborhood. I think the Georgians are right to talk about a decisive moment. they face a decisive moment in their development from both the domestic point of view and also from the point of view of the foreign policy. You know that domestically, after the last parliamentary elections, they experienced the so-called cohabitation, which has never been experienced there before. By the way, it's very important to realize and also respect at the same time that if you look at the Georgians' history, this is actually for the first time where the government has been changed through elections and not as a result of revolution. That adds the challenges on the domestic front, and one of those challenges, the most important, is that whatever the authorities are now doing in delivering on their pre-election promises, that they do it in the sense and in the framework of their commitment to the values and the principles our cooperation is based on. The Georgians could expect actually a lot at the summit in Vilnius at the end of November. First of all, if the negotiations would continue constructively and smoothly, as it is now the case, we might be in the position to initial association agreement with Georgia, including also the part related to the economic integration. I don't know whether you have heard the abbreviations DCFTA, Deep and Comprehensive Free Trade Area. It's an important part of the association agreement. It's much more than the FTA. Actually, the abbreviation here is what's interesting in that abbreviation is this DC, Deep and Comprehensive, because it offers to Georgia and our other partners with whom we're negotiating such treaties access to the sizable portion of the European Union acquis. This is actually an offer to share with our partners regulatory framework. You know, our biggest problem was when our partners told us, oh, we want to get our relationship to be as close as possible. We want to come as close as possible to the European Union. Then how you defined that as close as possible. And that was when we came with this concept of the association agreement, which provides for political associations and economic integration. What it basically means is that our partners could become a part of our extended economic zone and gradually become a part of the European Union internal market. For some, it might be the end in itself. For others, it might be just one step in delivering on their European perspective. Something the Azerbaijani also might have sooner or later sort of defined in a way that it's become a part of the inclusive debate here in Azerbaijan. So initialing this agreement is one thing, progress on visa dialogue, the people-to-people contact is another thing. But I think the most important achievement for Georgia would be an acceptance and endorsement of the continuation of the reform process after what I refer to, actually very important parliamentary elections. Now, can I refer to the cooperation with Russian Federation more generally, although the question was very much about Georgians, and I can only say that we have always helped the Georgian authorities to reach out the population and break away territories. And we were always on their side in facing the consequences of the military conflict there. Now, that does not take away the importance of our partners attribute to the cooperation with Russia. Sometimes the people put the association agreement, including this DCFTA, on one side, and on the other side, the customs union. They put the European Union on one side, and they put the Euro-Asian Union on the other side. And they say, you have to choose. Now, I don't want really to enter into the philosophical debate to what extent it rightly reflects the situation. Because we are not actually interested in our partners making the choice and choosing between Moscow and Brussels. Offering our partners from the Eastern Europe this unique partnership through the association agreement, we're making it very clear that at the same time we are keen to see your relationship with Russia and other partners, members of Customs Union, to be not only as good as they are, but to be further expanded. There is no contradiction. Now, there is one small but. And that but is actually not that small to be ignored. When the European Commission has visited Moscow one month and a half ago, we actually raised it with the Russian government and Prime Minister Medvedev. Because at that time we said quite clearly, if our partners put on themselves the commitment stemming from the association agreement and DCFTA, it's important, association agreement and DCFTA, then those commitments are not fully compatible, actually, with the commitments which are stemming from the Customs Union. Because once you become the member of the Customs Union, what's going to happen? You're losing the sovereignty about your trade policy. And we cannot negotiate and conclude the agreement with someone who does not have the control over its own trade policies, and foreign trade policies in particular, of course. That's what we made it clear in Moscow. Or we made it clear also in Moscow to other things which are important. The first of them is that we are nevertheless very much open and forthcoming with our partners to look at the possibilities of compatibility between the association agreement membership and aligning of our partners with a certain policies of the Customs Union and the Euro-Asian Union. As I said, we are keen in seeing those relationships being promoted, and we are keen to find if there is a way on specific policies which do not contradict the commitments stemming from the association agreement to support such a cooperation. And there is a second element which is of a more general nature and extremely important for all of us, whether we are sort of living in this region or not. Here we have the two unions, European Union and Euro-Asian Union. European Union has developed its acquis to an unbelievable dimension. I mean, when I'm now negotiating the enlargement, I have around 130, 140 thousands of pages of the European Union acquis to negotiate through the 35 chapters. Now, I'm not saying that the Euro-Asian Union should do exactly the same, and that we should have a competition in the number of the documents. But I guess that the members of I hope I didn't say that much. Now, yeah, it looks it's working now. But I guess at the same time that while the members of Euro-Asian Union will elaborate and will create their own regulatory framework, that they will do that taking into account that there is already one in Europe and serving quite well to the 27 member states, soon 28, and other candidate countries. I'm by far suggesting that someone should just copy and paste what is being experienced of dozens and dozens of years of integration efforts within the European Union. But I'm saying that it's in the interest of the European Union, its member states, it's in the interest of Euro-Asian Union that we make those two regulatory frameworks as compatible, as harmonized as possible. Because if we failed on this one, we create a dividing line between these two important integration projects. And we made an offer in Moscow. We made an offer to come out with a couple of pilot projects in the most important area, where our experts could, from the European Commission, could meet the Euro-Asian Commission and discuss how exactly to handle this challenge, the challenge for both of us, and make sure that the relationship between those two unions will not will not stand in a way of, at a certain time, to create these free economic zones from Lisbon to Vladivostok. And sorry for this sort of more general expose on this particular issue, but this is an important point for both the EU and Euro-Asian Union relationship, but also for our partners to be aware of both the opportunities and challenges there. Now, Turkey is a candidate country. Turkey is negotiating the accession to the European Union. We could have a discussion with the number of open chapters and only one preliminary clause actually reflects the time which we have devoted to those accession negotiations. We could talk about the credibility issue on the European Union side, because sometimes we ourselves sort of tend to change the rules of the games in the middle of the games. We could talk about the credibility on the Turkish side, because sometimes it seems to us that they have a rather selective approach to the reforms, and they lack the understanding that the reforms themselves is actually our engine of the accession negotiations. But I can say one thing very clearly. One of those chapters talks about the harmonization of our candidate countries with a common foreign and security policies. So whatever the Turkey is doing now, it needs to make sure that by the time it accedes to the European Union, and when eventually the decision is being made, both in Turkey and in the member states, that by that time this full compatibility is ensured with the European Union, as I said, the common foreign and security policy. Now, the railway project here in the South Caucasus of Azerbaijan and Georgia is exactly those kind of projects we would like to support more, to strengthen the cooperation and, if not even integration, whatever form it has, among our partners. Because the Eastern Partnership is not just the instrument to strengthen the East-West cooperation. It's also to strengthen the East-East ownership of the development and East-East cooperation. In Tbilisi, only a couple of months ago, we had a second informal Eastern Partnership, or Partnership Dialogue, we call it, where 6 our partners are being represented by the foreign ministers, and the European Union is being represented by Helga Schmidt, a deputy to Cathy Ashton, High Representative, and myself. And in Tbilisi was the first meeting where we have added a sectorial cooperation. We have invited transport minister, the one from Azerbaijan also participated. And we talked about not only the project in this region, but what's probably even more important, how to interact the main road and railway tracks with the trans-European network to make the access of this region from our perspective and the European Union from your perspective much easier. And we're going to continue in that sectoral cooperation. The issue of the arrests, I have tried in a diplomatic language to reflect in my statements. And I could refer actually to statements we have issued with High Representative, where we made it clear that we are concerned about what sometimes seems as an arbitrary detention of the people. That we are concerned that the space for open dialogue is actually getting smaller rather than it's getting bigger. The point I made yesterday and today is you want your country to be modernized, and we want to be a part of that. But does it really work in such a way that you modernize only what you want and you leave some other important issues aside? Or once you embark on the modernization, you need to do it comprehensively, because otherwise it will not be sustainable. And should it be inclusive? Should it be understood and supported by the stakeholders, by the civil society? I think all these elements are true. And the human beings play a central role in that modernization efforts. I had just a discussion with the education minister, and we have agreed, or we have reconfirmed that actually education is going to be one of the 3 priorities of the cooperation between the EU and Azerbaijan for the next financial perspective, 2014 and 2020. Is it really about building just the new schools or reconstruct the old one? Is it really just about a new modern curriculum vitae? It is about making the best use of everyone's ability. It is about you learning to think as a human being, to be free to do that, to value that freedom, that liberty, and to be able to fight for it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I am assuming that there are more questions in the audience because the topic is extremely interesting, but we have run out of time and there's also some other activities that Mr. Commissioner must be engaged. So let me, on behalf of Diplomatic Academy, on behalf of our faculty and students, two more questions? Okay, so Mr. Commissioner is taking two more questions.
Be nice, yeah? I mean, I just gave you an extra 2 questions, so be nice, please.
Okay, so please raise your hand if you have questions. So we'll take one from here and one from this gentleman. Please introduce yourself.
Mr. Commissioner, welcome to Azerbaijan, and thank you very much for this very interesting lecture. And many thanks to Ada for hosting us here. I met you at Stockholm Stockholm Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum last year. We talked about the Eastern Partnership EU traineeship program. This was a small recommendation or sort of proposal to establish within the EU programs. Do you think it would be possible to establish an Eastern Partnership traineeship program for the young graduates from the Eastern Partnership countries? Because currently although we have the EU traineeship program that is open to all the internationals, the people from Eastern Partnership countries compete on equal basis with those people, and it is very hard to get into the traineeship programs. I strongly believe that we should have a sort of differentiated approach to mobility of the Eastern Partnership young people. So what do you think about it? By the way, I'm a PhD candidate at the University of German Federal Armed Forces. My project is the ENP, European Neighbourhood Policy. Thank you.
Thank you. And final question from the gentleman on the middle row.
Thank you very much. Naga Ahmedov from the Academy of Public Administration. They asked about the railway project, but I want to ask another project, Nabucco. What do you think about the future of Nabucco project after the realization of the idea of TANAP? Because I asked it before because there are some concerns about that Azerbaijan has not enough energy resource to supply this project, this pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, concerning the first question, I like that idea when we talked about that in Stockholm. I still like this idea. Actually, that was one of the reasons why we have opted for education to be the next sector for this closer cooperation and informal dialogue among the educational ministers. And I think the meeting is scheduled for September. Colleague of mine from the college who is responsible, Andrea Vasiliou, was responsible for education, is to join the part. We have talked already about what we can offer. This was one of those issues which she intends to discuss. By the way, this sectoral, informal sectoral cooperation is not just one ad hoc meeting. The idea is then to have parallel informal meetings if needed, or moving to a more formal stage. For example, the transport we had in Tbilisi a couple of months ago is going to be followed up by the Lithuanian presidency just before the Vilnius summit. There is going to be a formal meeting at the level of transport ministers between the EU and Eastern partners, and the same option is for the education minister. There is actually one more reason why to support this and similar ideas. When we looked at the last 2-3 years of this new neighborhood, or 2 years of the new neighborhood policy, we actually concluded that investing in the people, making it available for them to travel and then to return back, for them learn, earn, and return, that this is actually the best way we could contribute to the development in our partners. And we were looking at the figures, whether the numbers, I mentioned the figure for Azerbaijan. For some it might seem a big number, but I belong to those, and many of my colleagues believe that is far below what's being required. So I hope very much that we will be able to secure additional financial resources within the next financial framework to make sure that there is a more intensive exchanges of the students. Exchanges, because it's important that we also help your universities to be among those best in Europe, where I will find not only 1, but 2, 5, 10 Czechs studying here diplomacy after preparing for that in the Czech Republic. Now, Nabucco. You know that this is actually the kind of cooperation between the European Union and Azerbaijan which has a strategic dimension, the cooperation in energy. The energy diversification means a lot to us because the European Union, they have learned the hard way. There have been the whole European Union and some of our member states actually frozen for a couple of weeks in the middle of the winter a couple of years ago, when someone just turned the pipeline out. So the Azerbaijan, its gas and its readiness to partner with us to turn this project of Southern Corridor into a 21st century of Silk Road, which will not be just a symbol of hydrocarbon going in one direction, but will connect this region more deeply with the European Union, is what we support. Or whether that pipeline is going to be called Nabucco, TANAP, or our commercial partners would come out with a different name, it's probably not what's the most important. What is important that it has our support. What is important is that it's commercially viable. What is important that actually the various steps are now being made in a harmonized way, that at the end we are able to transport not only the gas from Azerbaijan, but also probably from Turkmenistan, and that we are able to bring it to all relevant customers in Western Europe, because, by the way, one of the decisions which is still to be made, and it will be made rather soon is which of the two ways to choose on our side of the project. And that was actually one of the things I underline in my discussion with authorities and with the President, that we appreciate that Azerbaijan is taking a very active part in this project, that there is this sense of joint ownership of this important project, which is going to change dramatically the energy security of the European Union, but, and it is important, but it also is going to contribute to foster our relationship with Azerbaijan, but also the whole South Caucasus region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Once again, I'd like to say that here at Diplomatic Academy, we are closely studying and watching all these processes, both through our European Studies program, but also through our Energy Center. We are hoping that there will be some real tangible progress in our bilateral relations. And we also hope that you will come back again to our Academy, Mr. Commissioner, when we launch officially our EU Studies program, and you will be one of our keynote speakers. Thank you very much. Thank you for your remarks, and come back again, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will come, but only on the understanding that, I mean, this was very important for me and interesting. But next time, I'd like to be in one of your smaller rooms and to have a real debate where it's not only me who will be able to pass on you sort of my thoughts, but I will be also able to get much more for you. It has been a long time since I have studied the diplomacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.